All right, great audience. I'm PES. It's nice to see everyone here. A lot of you know me from the films that I make on YouTube, maybe. Most of them involve my hands and animated objects. If you haven't seen them before, you're about to see a couple clips just to refresh. One of the films I made, Fresh Guacamole. I'm happy to say I actually bought props for this film while I was in Puebla a couple of years ago. In this film, I transform grenades into guacamole. Let's take a look. In Western spaghetti, I transformed Rubik's Cube. Post-it notes, butter. I even built an Italian deli, and I made myself a fat butcher. Unfortunately, I had to gain some weight for that role, but I never lost it after the film was done. Sometimes I work with larger objects. You may have seen roof sex, 2 chairs. Or smaller objects. Not many people know that Pac-Man was actually based on a pizza with a slice missing. That's Toru Iwatani. Sometimes I even get to animate people. Working with people is much more difficult than working with objects because they get hungry, they misbehave, they have to go to the bathroom at the worst times, and they're constantly complaining while you're shooting. So sometimes I have to hang them by their balls to get the performance that I need. But what happens when someone asks me to make a film about something that's actually important? And that's what happened this year. I was approached by Corona and their beach cleanup partner, Parley, to create a film on the subject of marine plastic pollution. And the challenge was, how do I speak to this topic in my own language of objects? I'm not going to bore you with the statistics, but I'm sure most of you know this is what's going on. We are filling the oceans with plastic, and we've been doing this for many, many years. It's gotten so bad, the microplastics are breaking down and they're getting into the food chain. They're causing horrible effects on the ecosystem. Some of these things we're just starting to fully understand. And so I'm trying to figure out what I can do that speaks to this topic. So I naturally dive into this idea, and I'm, trying to figure out what do I want to do with it. And one thing that I couldn't stop thinking about while I was doing my research was the photographs done by a man named Chris Jordan back in 2009. He's a photographer. He went to the Midway Islands in 2009, and he came back with some of the most horrifying imagery that I've seen. And 10 years later, in 2019, I was still thinking about this imagery. And I'm about to show you some of his photographs. Okay. This is some really powerful stuff. What strikes me about these photographs is that the whole story is right there. You see the bird's death, and you see the cause of death in the same frame. There's a story there. These plastic bottle caps have become serial killers. Another interesting thing I would say about these photographs is that you can see these birds think that these aren't just bottle caps or toys or toothbrushes or lighters. This is food to them. They can't tell the difference. And then another thing that I think this speaks to is this cyclical quality, okay? That the bird itself, you can see, will decompose. But the plastics themselves take much longer to break down. And so the cycle is bound to repeat itself endlessly. So I thought there was an idea in here, and that's what I wanted to get at and develop. So I'm going to walk you through how I developed my idea for this. So I'm going to start with Chris's imagery as a sort of launching off point. We're going to open up. We're going to see an albatross on the sand, and we're going to see the bits of plastic in his stomach. You're going to take this in for a minute. And then you're going to notice that the bits of plastic start to come alive. We're going to cut in closer. We're going to see these bits of plastic start to form little pieces. Here, maybe it's a fin. Another close-up, an eye. And yet another close-up, a tail. The tail starts to move. We pull back, and we see it's a fish. It's come to life. Naturally, the fish starts flopping around. Fish out of water. We start almost to feel bad for this little guy. He's flopping around. What's he going to do? I'm piquing the viewer's interest here. Oh, now he's going to move. He's going to flop out of frame. Now we're going to take a different angle. We're going to go low. We're going to see this epic struggle to get back to the water. Poor little guy. He's taking his last breaths, maybe. Is he going to make it? We hear the ocean in the background. Oh, then a wave comes up, tantalizingly close. He has a little bit of new energy, and he starts springing to life, and he jumps. He's got to get back to the water. And just then, a new bird comes, spotting his next meal, a perfect new fish. Perfect meal for this guy. He takes it, throws his head back, grabs the fish, starts gobbling down this plastic fish. Gobble, gobble, gobble. And then, I'm there. Me and my guacamole hand. Come in, and I grab that plastic fish by the tail, and I pull that fish out of his mouth, saving this creature. And we put that shit where it belongs, in the recycling bin. That's my idea of how to treat this subject. One little change I made. You remember the beginning, we start with the albatross, as Chris had in his photos. Well, albatross, seabirds, aren't the only creatures that are affected by eating plastic this way, and I wanted to show that. So I made a change. Sea turtles also suffer in this way, as do some other animals. So I'm going to switch this to a sea turtle. So great, I have my idea. What do I do with it now? Well, what I do with it is 3 weeks of meticulous work by a wonderful crew to build birds, fabrication, painting the bird's beak, turtle bone making. Here's a bone. Here's what it started as, and this is what it became. These are really talented model makers bringing this idea to life. More turtle bones, a plastic fish, experimentation. I even had to make a beach. This is what it looked like to start. It got carved, and then it got transformed into a real beach. A tireless working around the clock to embed this turtle in the sand. All before a single frame of this film could be shot. And that's what I want to leave you with. It's called The Fish. Thank you.
Enorme aplauso a nuestro amigo PES, que es además amigo en la Ciudad. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What's your next job? What's the next challenge?
Well, I'm working on a new film, actually. It's a new cooking film. Okay. So in the spirit of the guacamole and the submarine sandwich and the Western spaghetti, we'll have a new film done early next year.
How many people have seen your projects on YouTube, more or less?
Over 1 billion now.
Over 1 billion.
Yeah.
Un aplauso, por favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Amazing.